and welcome on into another episode of Oh So Curious. I am your host, Daniel, and today on the show we've got lots, and I do mean lots to talk about. But before we get to all of that, let me introduce to you the wonderful, wonderful panelists that I've got with me today. The fantastic people who will be talking all about movies, TV shows, and a whole lot else today. First, we have, of course, Rolan. How you doing today, Rolan?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and it's great to have you here with us.
It's such a pleasure.
Sorry, gotta move on. Max, how you doing?
Ready for that close-up. Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. I'm sure it's a lot warmer where you are than where I am. I'm in the cold winter weather of New England, and you're somewhere in the Mediterranean. So I'm a bit jealous of that. But anyway, let's move on. We're gonna talk about weather at another time. Let's talk about Andrew. Andrew, how are you doing? You're coming to us from sunny California.
Oh yeah, it's freezing over here. It's like 65.
Nice.
65.
It's good.
That's like 3 times what it is over here.
Wow. Glad I'm not there.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Here's all 4 of us all together. Look at that.
We made it.
Yes, we made it. 4 curious minds, not 3, 4 curious minds today. So we have a lot to get through today. So you know what? Let's get right into it. How about I go through the rundown? So this is something new we're doing. We haven't done this before, so let's see if this works the way I expect it to. So here we go. This is the rundown for today's show. We're going to start off with some quick hits. We're bringing them back. Water is Wet is not one of them. We're going to go on to Oscars Revisit, which is basically we're reviewing what we did a couple of weeks ago. What would Andrew say? We'll talk about that when we get to it. Then we have Hollywood and China. That's going to be a discussion. We talk about Hollywood's overall impact on China. And vice versa, of course, the Chinese market's impact on Hollywood. And then we finish it off with the Batman preview. I feel like one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most, I don't know about you guys, but one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is revisiting those Oscar stories, because we talked all about the various ways in which the Oscars are broken and how we can improve it. And since then, they've made several announcements, and I'm really excited to talk about what those announcements are. Like, what do you guys think? Which part of the show are you excited about?
I like talking about Andrew, so I'm excited for the game.
Hey, we're all trying to figure out what Andrew would say.
Did not really have a say in any of this, but yeah.
And that's how we like it, so.
Yeah.
That's usually. Normally we don't ask you about the opinion, and now we're actually going to be going right for it.
Wow. Yeah. I'll keep that in mind the next time I offer an unsolicited opinion.
Well, we will solicit your opinion when we talk about, when we get to the game. But before we do that, Roland was generous enough and with his time to just, on very short notice, whip up some quick hits from this past week. Things that were going on in the world, things that piqued our curiosity. And remember, unfortunately, Water is Wet is not one of those curiosities this week. But nonetheless, let's take a look at what Roland has to say.
Let's get down and slow with quick hits. That's right, we're bringing it back, baby. Let's talk about what happened this week in movies. Well, after 9 years and 30 episodes, Peaky Blinders is coming to a close. Cillian Murphy said in a very cliche yearbook quote, "It's been a big adventure." Apparently a movie based off the series is in the works, but Murphy is focused on Christopher Nolan's new movie, Oppenheimer, where he plays the titular role. We're all very excited about that. Sophie Turner celebrated a birthday this week. That was cool. You might recognize her as Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones or Jean Grey from the X-Men franchise. She's soon going to be starring in the HBO miniseries The Staircase. Talk about stepping up her game. Anyways, Sony Pictures announced that Spider-Man No Way Home is set for digital release on March 22nd and on 4K UHD and Blu-ray on April 12th. I very much remember that. There's a lot of new scenes and this and that, but let's be honest, we were all excited about the Spider-Man meme. They did the thing. It was Toby, Andrew, and Tom, the tat. They did it. They were like the meme. It was cool. I enjoyed it. After And also, after 25 seasons, PBS's Arthur is coming to a close. Not to be confused with Fox's Archer, but Arthur is coming to a close. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know that show was still going on. I thought that ended a while ago, but apparently not. They ended it with, of course, like a grown-up episode, kind of. It's like a graphic novel. I'm spoiling it, and I shouldn't be for the fans. I apologize. But don't worry, your other childhood cartoons like The Simpsons and SpongeBob are still playing, so don't freak out too much. Also, I thought this was cool. Well, not cool. Cool's not the right word. $200,000 worth of props were stolen from the set of The Crown. They were shooting in Yorkshire, England, and the South Yorkshire police are still investigating. It sounds cool. It's not like that's 200. Anyways, that's it. Them's the quick hits. Oh, by the way, have you seen the early reactions of Batman? Talk about holy reviews, Batman. I'm so sorry. Daniel, please don't.
All right. Well, those were the quick hits. Hopefully you like those. I thought we had quite a bit of fun working on them. But let's talk about the podcast. If you are listening already, great. You found the podcast. We love that you did. Leave us a 5-star review. If you did not, and you can't get around to watching the show on YouTube, you're out and about, you're in the gym, you're working out, or you're just traveling to work, to your vacation, whatever the case might be, you can't have a screen in front of you, then we welcome you to find us on Apple, Spotify, and all other major podcasting platforms. You can find the Oh So Curious podcast. Listen to it today, and we would really, really appreciate your patronage there. Leave us a 5-star review. We always appreciate that as well. So, with that said, let's move on to our next segment of the show. Today, we're talking about the Oscars. Now, you might be thinking, didn't we talk about the Oscars before? Yes, we did. We talked about them recently, and now we're revisiting it. So, we're revisiting the Oscars for a few reasons. Well, we're going to be revisiting the Oscars several times in the coming episodes because the Oscars are coming up. But we talked about why the Oscars were broken recently, and since we had that conversation, the Academy has made some announcements, and we're going to pick out the 3 of those main announcements, and we're going to react to what the Academy has done to improve upon the shortcomings of the award show that at least some of the ones we pointed out, some of the ones we maybe didn't even bring up, but they're doing something about it. They want to make the best show possible, and it looks like this is their attempt to do so. So with that said, let's get on to all these stories. I'm going to pull up a number of stories that have come out in recent days, weeks, if you will. The very first one, guys. So Roland, Mags, Andrew, here's what's going on at the Oscars this year. The very first thing that they announced, this was, I think, February 14th. So, a couple of weeks ago from when we were recording this. They announced the new hosts. So there's not one, not two, not three. Well, not one, not two, the 3 hosts. Much like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade's attempt at 3 rings, which never happened. But it's not the first time they've had 3 hosts before. This is the first time they've done it in a while. And as you can see, it's Amy Schumer, Regina Hall, Wanda Sykes. I don't know. Okay, it's not really what I would have picked. It's not really what most people would have thought they would have wanted for this. But here we are. So Roland, tell me, what do you think about this? Like,
it's such a weird collection of comedians. It's just I don't really understand how they're connected. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Regina Hall, and I used to be really big fan of Amy Schumer and Wanda Sykes, but I don't know. It might good. I think they're trying to overcompensate a little bit. Maybe like, hey, maybe if we get 3 comedians over just 1 comedian, maybe it'll be 3 times as funnier. I don't know. I think I'll have to watch him to really give my full judgment. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a head scratcher, head turn. It was certainly a head turner, but it's a head scratcher too because it's really hard to tell how they landed upon that selection of hosts. But we'll see. They're trying to do this whole 1 hour, 1 host sort of a situation. So 3 hours, 3 hosts. You do the math. They're trying to freshen it up at the top of every hour. So we'll see how that goes. But let's move on to the next story. We're going to talk about this thing that the Academy announced called the Fan Favorite Award. Now, we don't really know. Actually, I pulled up the wrong item here. Here we go. The Fan Favorite Award. We don't really know what that entails. Like, in terms of, like, are they going to actually hand out a trophy? Or is it just... they're just going to say, oh, you know, we put up this poll and this is the movie that won. But anyway, the point is they want to recognize the fan favorite film, like the most popular film, if you will. They tried to make that a category a while ago. And the voting has been going about as well as expected. Well, actually, not as a... it's somewhat how people... so people expected that a movie, you know, like Zack Snyder Justice League or Spider-Man No Way Home, which is probably what the Academy thought would you know, get most amount of votes because they have rabid online followings. But what has ended up happening is a movie like not Disney's Cinderella, but Amazon Prime Cinderella has been leading the race because all the fans of what's her name? What's the name of this person? Camila Cabello. She was the main lead in this movie. All of her stands are taking a stand and voting for her version of Cinderella to win this. So Mags, let me ask you this: what do you think about this fan favorite film award? I mean, should this even be a thing? And since it is, who would you vote for?
I mean, I really hope we're going to start handing out awards for it. I mean, I see how they try to, you know, make people more engaged with the whole process, but at the same time, yeah, it's definitely a step up, but will that actually be an award for People's Choice Awards? No, I don't think so. It's a nice try, though. Yep.
Yeah.
What else do they have? I mean, I'm not excited.
I mean, look, if you want, here's the thing.
Sorry.
It's open to all of us to vote. You can go on the website. There's a website called OscarsFanFavorite.com. You pull up to this page, and you right there in the blue box, you can vote for it.
Let's assume some film will win this award.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be their line? Oscars fan favorite.
Nobody really knows how they're gonna treat this. Like in actuality, whether it's gonna be like they're gonna actually give an Oscar, or they're just gonna say, oh, and now let's talk about, you know, like they do the in memoriam segment. Like who knows? Maybe this will just be a segment, or maybe this will be an award.
Sure.
We don't really know. They're sort of like non-committal on that, maybe on purpose, because the whole idea behind this is to drive ratings. They want people to tune in and see who won, especially people who voted using this form that we have on screen. But
and my concern would be people can see past through it.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It would be quite interesting to see how many people will participate even in voting for that thing.
Well, as you can imagine, even if people, you know, see through it, they will still vote for it because clearly they are voting for it. But anyway, we got to move on. So let's talk about the next subject here. The next story that came... oh, I'm pulling the wrong story up again. Let me go back a couple. Here we go. So, 8 categories that won't air live this year at the Oscars Award. Their recaps will be shown. So basically, you know, as you guys probably have... if you have seen the Oscars before, if you know how the show generally works, it can go upwards of 3 to 4 hours. And that obviously is a long time for somebody to sit through the show. So this year they're trying to like shorten the show up and kind of like make it more high and tight in terms of the, you know, the pacing. So one of the ways they're going to do it is they're going to take 8 of the categories from, what is it, 22 or 23 categories total that the Oscars have. Andrew, how many categories total do the Oscars have? Like 23? Is that the number?
I'm asking the wrong guy.
Okay,
That's
all right.
Too many. I'll tell you too many. Yeah, so they're getting rid of 8. Fine.
Yeah, well, they're not getting rid of them, right? So here's what they're basically doing. They're taking those 8 categories and they're still presenting them at the event, but they're doing them before the show goes live on air. So they're going to film them, then they're going to, you know, put them into a video package of some kind, and they're going to show those categories during the show rather than doing it live, which takes obviously a lot more time than if they were to cut it down into smaller pieces. So it's meant to streamline the show. So that's like, what do you think about that?
Well, kind of sucks to have to get your award out of the ceremony. It's like you don't really get to be part of like the monologue or anything. You are one thing that we just have to sort of get through. You know what, in terms of the show, like get it over as soon as you possibly can. We're not missing anything. Audiences aren't really going to tell. But I think a better way to do it would be to do banner ads, stream it. Don't cut to commercial constantly. Like you could just coordinate the whole thing better. But step in the right direction, make the thing shorter.
Yeah, yeah. No, hey, I think it's at least worth trying. You know, maybe it will be terrible and people will hate it. Maybe people won't care, or maybe people will love it. Who knows? I mean, the categories are documentary, short subject, film editing, makeup and hairstyling, music, original score. Music original song is still going to be presented live, but music original score won't be. So, like, if John Williams wins or somebody like that, Hans Zimmer, for Dune, for example, that will be a video package deal. Production design, which, again, another one of those technical award categories. Short film animated, short film live action, and sound. So
at the end of the day, it's a show. It's a show. The Oscars is for entertainment, and people care about the awards that night and the next day, and then they don't really think about it until they put it on their resume again. So, you know what? Make it a better show. Make it a better show.
Yeah. I mean, look, I sort of agree
Amen.
with you, because there are Oscar purists out there who will say things like, "No, this is like the integrity of the award show, the Oscars, is being compromised." But I'm like, yes, but you guys make up, those people make up a minority of the large audience, like the millions of people who watch it. Majority of them probably won't think of it the same way. So yeah, let's see what happens.
No.
So in review, we have new hosts. We have a fan favorite award, which we don't know how they're gonna treat that, like whether it's a trophy or it's just a segment where they highlight the movie that won. And then of course they're shortening the runtime, hopefully, of the show itself by taking 8 categories, presenting them before the show actually goes live, and then they're going to streamline the whole overall show as a result of that. So those were the changes so far that have been announced for the 2022 Oscars. We at Also Curious are following, of course, any other announcements that may come down the road, and so we may revisit the subject again. And of course, we have our planned, what are we calling this? We were going to watch along the Oscars. And
Our live stream.
yeah, we're going to live stream basically a second screen experience. If you don't like watching the main show, you can put that on mute and have it running in the background and listen to us commentate. We will tell you who wins, the best original score, or the best film, the best actor in leading role, or best actress in a leading role. But at any rate, that will do it for the Oscars revisit. Now, up next, what we have on the show is what would Andrew say? And we tried to figure out what Andrew would say. It's not easy to do, but let's take a look what Andrew says about. Well, we'll explain when we get to it.
What would Andrew say?
All right. So, what would Andrew say? As Triple H would say, it's time to play the game. And it is all about the game. The game we were playing today. I'm just gonna start reciting that song. But the game we were playing today is what would Andrew say? So Andrew, here's basically how we're gonna roll with this. All of us, meaning everybody on this panel, and Brian, who's not on the show today, but even he came up with a pick of a movie that we would love for you to check out. So the question is, of course, what would Andrew say? Meaning, what do you like it? Do you hate it? So what would you say? So let's find out. So Mags, let's pick up with you. What movie do you say that Andrew should check out?
And if he chooses mine, do I win anything?
No. Just
No
the
reward.
satisfaction that Andrew decided to watch
Fine.
your suggestion.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I went for something underrated because Andrew is sucker for them. He always likes something that kind of laid low. And I don't think he's seen it, but I could be wrong. It's Mother with exclamation mark. Have you seen it?
Mother? Was this the...
Darren
Was this-
Aronofsky, 2017.
I
It's
have
a
not
psych-
seen it.
It's a psychological horror film, which the tagline essentially is: a poet and his wife lead a tranquil existence in a burned-out house. However, when an uninvited guest came barging in, the couple's lives turns chaotic and shocking events unfold. It stars Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, and so they're the main couple. The guests you get Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris, who are incredible. It's Rosemary's Baby meets The Shining, but it's so uncomfortable throughout the whole film makes you super uncomfortable. It's entertaining. It has the most creative and nerve-wracking sequences right in the middle. And yeah, I had to go to when we left the cinema, I had to go to to a pub with my friends, and we had a pint in the silence because we were just so exhausted with that film. But yeah, that is me. Mother, Darren Aronofsky, 2017.
Andrew, what are your quick thoughts? Liking it so far?
Well, so far it sounds like Mags wants me to be upset, but I am I am a fan of Darren Aronofsky, Ed Harris, Javier Bardem. It sounds like a good cast. It sounds like a psychological thriller. I do like those.
Nice.
Not a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan, but that's a contender. Darren Aronofsky does good work.
Yeah.
Good.
Interesting. Well, let me see if I can try to top that. Of course I can top that. How about Krish? It's the sequel. It's the sequel to Koi Milgya, which is the movie that we reviewed.
Andrew.
So it's a Bollywood movie, as if you haven't already surmised by the poster. It stars Hrithik Roshan, the same actor who was the lead role in Koi Milgya, the Bollywood adaptation of E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And this is a sequel. I think I brought it up before with you guys in our conversations that they made 2 sequels. This is the first of those. And it becomes like a superhero movie. And the main actor...
What?
Yeah, it's a super... You can't tell from the look of the poster.
My God.
It's the son of the lead character from the previous movie, but they happen to look exactly the same or are played by the same actor. So, what do you say, Andrew?
I have a morbid curiosity about this one because it was my first Bollywood experience and it made no sense, but I was enthralled. Tempting.
That is the same actor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, at least I intrigued you. All right. Well, Roland, what do you have for us?
I picked The Tree of Life. You know, that Terrence Malick movie?
No.
It's a lot of cinematography. It's, barely any dialogue for you to critique. I looked up the most pretentious films I could find. This was on the top of the list. I was like, maybe you have an opinion. I would like your opinion, Andrew.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying, there's a slight little dig at me there, saying that I'm pretentious, but, I'm also not going to deny it. I'm pretentious. Why would I like this movie? Or is this just to slap me across the face?
I don't know.
It is like
What is it about?
It's an interesting movie. It's the tagline is the story of a family in Waco, Texas in 1956. The eldest son witnesses the loss of innocence and struggles with his parents' conflicting teachings. Basically, what it is just like it's about family and family roots, and you see this kid grow up.
It's about family.
I mean, look. Here's the thing. Terrence Malick.
It's about Waco?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I said Wacko, but yeah, it's Waco,
okay.
Texas.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds slow.
Personally, Boyhood did it better, but that's my opinion.
Well, Boyhood wasn't about a cult. Is this about the Branch Davidians?
It just happened to take place in Waco, Texas.
Oh,
No.
okay. Because that I was like, maybe
No.
that.
His dad's just like a jerk, is the thing.
This sounds too pretentious for me.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad Pitt,
Wow.
Sean Penn, Jessica Chastain. There's not a whole lot you can do wrong
It's a good cast.
there. Yeah.
It is.
So Roland.
But you also didn't sell it so hard. You basically told me Boyhood was better, and I didn't care for Boyhood.
Well,
Yeah,
So
okay. All
And you called
right.
him pretentious. You called him pretentious.
I
in the
didn't
first.
call him. I implied it. There's a difference, people.
let me
Hold
teach you
on.
something about selling. You
I'm
don't
sorry.
ever
We have to
insult
move
the
on.
customer.
I'm so sorry. We're moving on to the next.
So Brian couldn't be with us today, but apparently he sent in a pic as well, and Roland knows all about it. So Roland, let's see what Brian sent us.
Nacho Libre. Brian was trying to go for like a nostalgic thing. He was
That
like,
is a Brian pick.
he's like, I think Andrew grew up with this movie. It's amazing. Jack Black's in it. He kills it. He's like a monk turned wrestler. You see some amazing acting chops from Jack Black's friend, where he eats street corn, and then Jack Black's wearing very tight white pants. It's a great movie. Very inspiring. It talks about the underdog and what willpower can really bring you to.
Yeah. Hey, he will make you believe that Jack Black can fly, as you can see in the poster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Nacho Libre. I
Of course
the
you
exploits
are.
of Nacho Libre. Well, but Brian, by the way, was very generous, and he actually picked out 2 movies for us. So let me give you guys another one. This might
Okay.
be your out. Like, if you don't want to go pretentious, you don't want to go the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe somewhere in the middle. How about The Longest Yard? And the Adam Sandler version, not the Burt Reynolds, but the Adam Sandler and Burt Reynolds version of The Longest
don't want
Yard.
to watch
Yeah,
both of them.
I was gonna say.
Brian, if you're watching this later, I hate remakes, and I hate sports. No.
Well, hey,
There you go.
the point of this. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll let you expand
No,
on that.
I know the original Longest Yard, and it's a good movie. No, sorry, Brian. No.
All right. Well, that was the very first edition of What Would
We're
Andrew
doing this
Say?
again.
Hey, here's how it goes, right? So now that we have pitched these, how many were there? Let me see. Were there like 6 movies total? 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 6. So we have pitched 6 movies to you. Remember, there was Mother, there was Krish, there was The Tree of Life, there was The Longest Yard. Actually, no, there was 5. The Longest Yard and Nacho Libre. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 options. Now you have to pick one of them. Go watch it, and next time out, you're gonna review it for us.
Am I going for one that I think I'll actually enjoy? Do you want me to be positive, or do you just want me to be a jerk?
Hey man, read the graphic. It says we try to find something for Andrew to watch and
like.
maybe.
Okay.
So it's
I
your
think-
pick.
yeah.
We'll leave it up to you.
I think I'm gonna have the best luck with Mother, honestly. So
I win again.
I hate to
Well,
be that
hold on.
guy, but it was number 2 on the most pretentious list. I'm
It's
just
not
saying.
a competition.
that was wow.
It was
Okay.
not.
Okay. Well, you
It's
know
a
what?
good film.
You don't win until I come back saying it was wonderful, and that hasn't happened
Still.
yet. So
I
What's-
already feel like a winner with my film, so we're
All
good.
right.
Thank you guys. That's
I'm just
how
trying
you
to
do
undercut it, really.
Once again.
Well, that
upset.
was well, what would Andrew say? That was
Yeah.
fun. So Andrew is gonna go watch Mother, and then once he has watched Mother, he's gonna tell us how was it. And we were looking forward to his review. Whether he hated it, whether he liked it, we'll find out soon enough. All right. So now it's time to talk about Hollywood and China. As you can see on the screen there, we've got the Hollywood sign and then a Chinese equivalent. It's I think it's pronounced Qingdao or Qingdao. I'm not gonna pretend to know how to pronounce that. But there's basically a lot of studios in China now producing movies, and that's one of them. They've got their backlot there, and they put up a nice sign that's Hollywood-esque. But the relationship between Hollywood and China is ever more complex and intertwined. And recently, the Batman, which is coming out in a few days, and we're going to talk all about it in a future episode. It got a release in China, which is the first superhero movie in a long time to do that, because it seems like in the majority, if not all of 2021 last year, most Marvel movies weren't allowed to play there. And most other Hollywood movies weren't allowed to play there. Uncharted, with Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, which is currently playing everywhere else, is also getting a release in China. So it looks like Chinese movies are flowing back into, Hollywood movies are flowing back into China, I should say. So the question becomes, how important is the Chinese market for Hollywood films? I'll let you guys take it from there. Andrew, what do you think?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because for the last 10, 15 years, China's been this rising power, and we've been seeing a lot of emphasis placed on how do we as Americans either appeal to the Chinese market, or how do we react to the Chinese content that comes our way? And so there's been this back and forth, especially as we've developed our own streaming platforms, they've been developing their own streaming platforms, and for some reason there really is this clamor to get into China if you're an American studio, because there's a lot of money in the Chinese audiences. There's a lot of people there, they watch our movies, they enjoy what they see, but what is it? Why is there such demand for entry into the Chinese market for films? That's what I wanted to start with today.
Well, I mean, I can answer that very quickly. It's the Chinese box office is now the #1 box office in the world. As you can see on the screen there, I've got a story from IndieWire. This is from 2018, and that's really where the first signs of it began, where in the first quarter of the year, the Chinese box office overtook the North American box office, which historically has been the biggest one. So, at the end of the day, it's a bit Hollywood, it's a not show friends, it's show business, as, the great Dusty Rhodes might say, the late great Dusty Rhodes. So the Chinese box office is bigger now than North America, so it plays a big part financially. So I think that's why Hollywood,
right. But what I'm saying is there's a limit on what can actually get made and what gets produced and released in China. Mags, what were you going to say?
So it's called Beijing Censor, essentially. So they choose 34 films every year, 34 international films. Sometimes there's a couple extra. That's why, first of all, it's an oddly specific number, but 34 films that are being picked to be shown in the cinemas in China, and not everyone gets the cut, makes a cut, as you can imagine, because we have way too many films coming out each year. But Beijing Censors determines release dates for films. So just because the film is coming out in US at the certain time, it doesn't mean it will come out at the same time in China. The perfect example would be when China celebrated their 100th anniversary of the Communist Party founding. There was no films shown for 2 months. So all the releases were pushed by months, not days, not weeks, months. They also determine how much advertising there's going to be, which cinemas they're going to show the films in. There's a lot that goes into planning and approving film to land in China.
From what I understand, it actually used to be 10, and the people who negotiated the deal was actually then Vice President Biden and then Vice President Xi Jinping. And that forward-looking, projection into like, these are the business decisions that matter. This is the audience that matters, and what we've seen is people potentially changing the way they make the movies, or trying to appeal to Chinese. Roland, here's a question for you. Are we making movies that appeal to Chinese audiences or Chinese censors?
That is a really good question. I was doing some research for this, and I found this interview from this Dan Mintz, who is the chief executive of DMG Entertainment, which is the Chinese partner for Iron Man 3. And he had this really good quote, which is, back home in the States, you were talking to just one person, the consumer. Here, you were talking to two. One is the government, and the other is the consumer. They have a lot of... It's no surprise that China and U.S. have very different cultural values. Mm-hmm. Like in America, we like a hero that is very independent. He likes to have a fall. He chooses greatness. Yeah. But in China, actually, it's greatness is thrusted upon them. They're pretty stable throughout. I've weirdly found out. And it's more of a collective thing, and they'll even rewrite scripts like central themes so that they'll make sure that they're hitting these marks.
Yeah, I mean, in other cultural differences that I've seen between American audiences and Chinese audiences is, you know, we comedies will do well here. They'll perform well here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the American movies that do well in China are action movies and it's not like action, like you say, rising up against power. It's mindless action. It's Transformers.
Yeah.
It's Venom. It's, you know, and
Fast
these are
and
actually
Furious.
Fast and Furious, where it's like there's nothing political about it. It's always just action happening, and that's impressive. But there is, you know, sometimes that falls on deaf ears in America.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a problem with audiences in America or with studios in America not making movies for Americans?
100%. So, I mean, a very interesting part to that would be adding what happened with Chloe Zhao and Nomadland, right?
Sure.
You guys heard, like, there was the interview that aired where, like, years before her winning an Oscar for Nomadland, she essentially called China a country where there are lies everywhere, and Nomadland got cancelled everywhere in China. They deleted any social media which were celebrating her winning, and she then she didn't release, that's the point. She got to direct Eternals, and they didn't get Chinese release in China.
So I'd read about Eternals and that whole thing, and this was something where they added characters that were gay, and this is another thing that in China, like,
it's a big no-go.
Yeah, and so they knew from the outset that was never going to make it to the Chinese box office. They knew that it was based on the fact that she was directing and all of these other things that they put in the movie. It was never going to make it to China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's again part of the culture right now. China's sort of doing this war on sissy men and saying, like, we're not going to tolerate anything that encourages the effeminate behavior of men. You know, so K-pop has sort of been ousted.
Yeah.
And, you know,
China is a very traditional place. Like, they put a lot of, they make their history very sacred, and they want to kind of keep to that as much as possible. While that's another cultural thing. A lot of times, American movies are looking to the future instead.
Yeah.
So that's something. It's completely a no-go.
Yeah, like, we're trying to be innovative and yeah.
Yep. Any time travel narratives, like Back to the Future was banned. Anything that suggests ability to alter reality. However, in 2012, I found out that Looper, which has scenes in Shanghai with dialogue depicting China as representation of the future, they didn't care. It made past censor.
Huh.
So
Yeah, well,
although I'd heard for Looper, originally in the script, one of the characters said, you know, he went to France in the future, and they actually rewrote that scene to say, I'm from the future, go to China. And that, because it characterizes China as a rising power, that was acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But I think what's important to look at here, you know, is that as we've been trying to break into their market, companies in China like Tencent and Alibaba, they've actually started creating their own production companies which make American movies. And so something like Venom was actually a Tencent production.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at a point where Chinese money is actually going into producing American movies that will do better in China. It's almost an insider trading kind of thing. Dan, you kind of know about the numbers of this stuff. What do you see going on here?
Yeah, I mean, insider trade. I mean, look, I'll be completely honest with you. Insider trading isn't really a concept that I am too familiar with, but So that analogy is not necessarily something that I would use, but yeah, I mean, there's an increasing amount of Hollywood productions, and it's not just movies. It's TV shows. It's even going beyond movies and TV shows, like the kind of things you would think as a TV show. Like they do reality television, they do scripted dramas, they do movies of all kinds of different genres, but they generally tend to focus on specific genres. Like they for example, here's a great example, right? So I pulled up the Wikipedia page of Legendary Entertainment.
Yeah.
And Legendary Entertainment from 2000 to 2016 was independently owned. It started out by Thomas Tull, who founded the company, and then in 2016, Wanda Group, which is a Chinese conglomerate, sort of like a Samsung, if you will. They took over Legendary, and then since then they've largely invested in movies that tend to be in genres that Chinese audiences tend to love and flock to. So genres would include things like sci-fi and big monster movies. So like one of the big series of movies that Legendary's invested in over the years since 2016 is the Godzilla franchise. So like the Godzilla movies, you have the King Kong movies, like all of those movies are financed almost entirely by Legendary. They're distributed by Warner Brothers and like whatever other company, Universal. But they have an increasing amount of presence. So the question that I'm going to ask you guys is, and then I think this is already true to a certain degree, usually in film production, if you're putting up the money, you have some level of sway over the creative side of production.
Absolutely.
Especially in Hollywood movies, which is they're not like not every Hollywood big budget tentpole is an auteur's venture, if you will. It's not like somebody like the director owns every part of it. It's usually like a corporate conglomerate story that's being told where there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So naturally, I think Chinese financiers have a lot of influence. What do you guys think about that? Like the creativity side of things.
I mean, they changed the structure. Oh, sorry, Max, you were going to say something.
No. Change the structure. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, they've been known to even change the structure of how a movie is made. Like, in America, we have a 3-act structure, which is setup, confrontation, and then resolution. And they have something called Qi Chen Xuan Jia, which basically means setup, development, redirection, and conclusion. Like they make a really big deal about like, hey, let's add a little flavor, let's add a little twist, just changing the whole rising climax and all these things.
That was a really good pronunciation, by the way.
I wrote it down. I tried to make sure I had that. Thank you, Max. What were you gonna say?
I was just, I mean, have you heard about Quentin Tarantino and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
A little bit.
So there was a Bruce Lee scene. Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the instance where, because you talked about when the filmmakers actually agreed to change parts of the film, where Quentin, being Quentin, was like, no, screw you guys. And he pushed back. Because he was like, I am going to depict it the way I want it to be. Despite the film having co-producers who were Chinese investors. It started with his Bruce's Lee daughter complaining about an unkind portrayal of Bruce Lee, who's like a national hero for China. And Sony, which was obviously the studio that did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they backed him up, Quentin Tarantino, completely aware of losing, a lot of the money, but they showed that they actually don't care what they want it to be shown.
Yeah, so that's the question that I really wanted to pose to you guys and to anybody watching here is, when we get into this mess of, not even you could call it a mess. When we get into this mess of money intermingling and creative control and trying to play to censors' tastes and to other audiences' tastes, well, we find that like American media tends to be a little more homogenous because they're trying to appeal to everybody. Dan Harmon will frequently say that like television kind of reeks of compromise. And so artistic vision is always, diluted into being something that is just, the slight flavor of what was the original intention. And so when we look at media, when we look at Chinese movies, American movies, or movies that are funded by both countries, who is influencing who? Is this American culture going into China, if they're changing it? Or is the control of the China censorship affecting how we make movies? Is that affecting the culture in America? Because movies are culture in America. Tell us what you think in the comments. Maybe we'll talk about it again some other time.
All right, so on next week's show, we're going to be talking all about The Batman. That's right, it's going to be Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, directed by Matt Reeves. We're going to be getting all up in The Batman. We're going to go see the movie. We're going to then we're going to, show up here next time and talk all about it. I am really excited about this movie. It's probably the most anticipated movie I've got on my schedule for this year. But I'm not sure about you guys. So, Andrew, the real question here is, what do you say?
Oh my God.
Is nobody tired of this guy? We never take breaks between Batman movies. We've had like 12 in the last 20 years, and it's just and they just keep getting more and more serious. And nobody ever makes fun of the guy's little ears. Like, if we're gonna go that far, let's have fun with it again.
His ears
It's
are
going to
cute.
be great. Look at it. It looks so sexy. It's going to be a sexy film.
It looks like
Did you just see that still?
Yeah, it looks like a fan film, but like with a really big budget. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it, so I'm just gonna stop there.
Yeah, I'll watch it. I'll try to have fun with it, but
I mean, there's
Batman.
supposed to be so
Hopeless.
many like connected series to it, so it's got to be good. I've heard
Yeah.
like a
They've
Penguin
announced
show.
2 spin-offs. Yeah, they've
Yeah.
announced the Penguin spin-off
Already?
with Colin Farrell. Yeah. It's in
Right.
development, so I don't know if it's gonna if it's gonna actually get made, but it's in development.
Yeah.
And then before that, even they announced the GCPD show. So this Batman is meant to take place, this movie, in like the year 2 of the Batman's career, if you will. Reference to the comics. Whereas the GCPD show takes place in year 1, so it's sort of a prequel series. But I think then the Penguin would be like a sequel to the events of this film.
I can't
Both
wait
on
to
HBO.
find out what happened to Batman's parents.
Yeah.
I can't either. I mean, this is not really an origin story, so they're gonna kind of skip ahead of a little bit. So I'm excited to see how they tackle
I hope
that.
so.
Fingers crossed, really.
I'm excited for visuals, but everything else, like, come on. Been
Yeah.
there, done that.
Look, I'm gonna defend
Unless
this movie.
they do something like Joker, what Todd Phillips did to Joker, I can't care. But
If
it's
you've
going
seen
to
the
be a
trailers-
good-looking film.
If you've
That's
seen the
all.
trailers, that's what this looks like. This looks like like a real
It's a
film.
good-looking film.
You
but
know?
I'm not
Yeah.
expecting some insights about the meaning of life from it. Have fun with Mother, Andrew.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm sorry for doing this to you. You'll be so broken after that.
Oh man.
Anyway.
what
changed
will
my
Andrew
mind.
say? We will find. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Speaking of which, what will Andrew say about Mother? That's also something we will find out next time on the show. In addition to, of course, what we all say about the Batman. So with that, let's quickly do some housekeeping before we wrap things up. So Roland, tell us where the good folks listening to us and watching us can find us on social media.
Hi, I'm Roland. I've been talking. Here's some social medias we're on. If you like Instagram, like I do, you can follow us at O_so_curious. And then Twitter, we have oso_curious. And then Facebook, we got lucky. We don't have any underscores. It's just oso_curious. Please follow us. Like, subscribe, notifications if you want to be risky. I don't know. You live your life. It'd be nice. I'd appreciate it. And
Hey, we would
that's-
all appreciate it.
I think
That's
so.
our social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah. I mean, hey, and we of course have osocurious.com. Go to our website, check out all of our episodes there. Listen to all of the episodes of the podcast. We got Rolan Underground up there as well. We got all kinds of good stuff. All the good goodies. Leave us a review there. We'd love to hear from you, your comments and feedback. Of course, you can find all of us on social media as well. You can find me at Daniyal1995. Mags, where can they find you on social?
Till Marple, but you have to wait for me to regain access to my account.
Yeah.
I'm still fighting with that. I
We'll-
might sue Instagram.
We'll figure that out. Roland, where can they find you on social?
I go to Lowe's a lot. I go to the grocery store. I like a lot of ramen lately. Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Frankel Voice. If you are interested in anything else I do, find me on YouTube. Just search Andrew Frankel.
Yeah, you'll find all kinds of interesting things. I
true.
guarantee it. All right. Well, with that, thank you. Well, thank you for watching, and thanks for listening. If you're listening to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, leave us a review if you're listening to us through Apple, Spotify, whichever platform you choose to. And of course, let us know your thoughts. We love your feedback. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show. We had a lot of fun with this. And until next time, it's been oh so curious, where you'll always find. Today, at least, it was 4 curious minds trying to tell time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Bye.